I'm going to start before I get into it. I want you to, these are our pictures of our centers, and it'll become apparent of where we'll go on, the journey we'll go on. But before we get there, I wanted to bring some student voice into the room. So I'm going to read one of the pieces by one of our students. Her name's Quinn Wells. When she wrote this piece, she was 10. She's a student at our 826 Chicago chapter. Currently, she's 13, and after you hear it, you might think that probably she thinks very differently than she did when she was 10. But the piece is titled, Who Wants Love? So, love is a great thing because it's made out of hearts and beauty and prettiness and handsomeness and awesomeness. And pow. Love goes slow. Love is ridiculous. Love is fast like a pony with a wizard costume on and a green mustache. Love is sad. Love is crazy. Love is around the world. Love is a deck of cards. Family love is happy and cool. Boyfriend and girlfriend love is yucky and nasty. When it comes to love, a man has to have a job, a good diploma, and has to have an 8-pack. And he has to cook, and he has to look handsome. He probably has to be in his 30s. There goes the 8-pack, right? So like I said, probably now at 13, she thinks very differently about love than she did when she was 10. So I'm here to talk to you about H6 National. We're a network of creative writing and after-school tutoring centers located in 8 cities in the United States. And I think when our co-founders, Dave Eggers and Nineveh Caligari, founded the first 826 National chapter, 826 Valencia in San Francisco, I don't think either of them dreamed that what began as a simple idea and a zoning issue would flourish into a national and now an international education movement. The simple idea was that you help students from low-income and under-resourced communities improve their writing with the help of caring adults from the community. So currently we work with students 6 to 18 with opportunity and give them opportunities to explore their creativity and improve their writing skills. Our mission is based on the understanding that great leaps in learning can happen with one-on-one attention, and that strong writing skills are fundamental to future success. So we work under a set of beliefs. And the first and foremost of those is that kids are weird, and that weirdness should be celebrated. Out-of-the-box thinking is unnecessary because for kids there is no box. Kids need a place where that imagination, that weirdness, is celebrated daily. It's okay to be creative and let your imagination run wilder than 826. There are caring adults, volunteers, and our volunteers are writers, they're designers, they're visual artists, they're musicians, business people, willing to give their time to help the young people in their community succeed. And finally, 826 chapters and staff are there as a resource to teachers, to families, and to the community. Though 826 is decidedly unconventional, the central idea behind our work is simple. As Dave said, there are caring adults in every community wanting to help the kids they see every day. And kids in every community are excited and eager for a chance to be heard, to be listened to tell their stories, and have help telling them. The power of 826 comes from bringing the kids and the adults together and letting them be genuine and real with each other in a setting that's anything but ordinary. So how do we do this? Every story starts with a street, or most stories start with a street. So I'm going to point you to in the corner, right-hand corner, the Brooklyn Superhero Supply Store. So most weekdays around 3 p.m. on the 300 block of 5th Avenue in Brooklyn's Park Slope neighborhood, you will see that among the local markets and coffee shops, there are children racing from school towards a building with superhero supplies for sale in its front window. Inside the shop, they disappear past iron racks of capes, anti-gravity boots, and through a secret swinging bookshelf entrance into a room that feels like a lair straight out of comics. And then they do their homework or work on a writing project. So this is our 826 Center in New York. It's also known as the Brooklyn Superhero Supply Store. It is literally, think of Office Depot for the modern-day superhero. So it sells cans of vengeance, secret identities. Next slide. These are just some of the products from other chapters, but we sell things like robot milk and mammoth chunks. Next slide. And this is the cape tester. So kids, it's a functioning store. And so kids can come in, and this is one of the thought processes, that you make a place where students can come in, and it's magical, and it's whimsical, and it's different. And it destigmatizes the idea of going to a tutoring center. or a writing center. They're just coming in, and like most of the students will say, I'm going to the superhero store, or I'm going to 826. And the stores, actually, the products, we sell all the products. We also sell the student publications. But some of our stores, I think New York is one of them, the profits make up about 10% of the revenue that we bring in. All of our writing programs are free of charge for every student. And so this, the fact that we can sell cans of vengeance to unsuspecting tourists actually is great. But students walk through a secret door and next slide. And you can't see it, but they walk into a writing center, and there are waiting tutors there helping them, there to help them with their writing and their homework. And the storefronts help students pass from the normal world into a place where creativity, fun, and learning are celebrated simultaneously. It helps students engage in their education without the stigma of a tutoring center may bring. But more importantly, our centers provide a third place, not home or school, where students can be as weird and creative as they want to be. We have found that beyond the academic skills offered by our creative writing and tutoring programs, the physical settings of our centers fills a unique role in our work. By creating uniquely designed environments in which our students feel safe, comfortable, and have ownership, 826 Writing and Tutoring Centers serve as a necessary space for our students' academic and mental development. It is our belief that similar spaces in children's lives should operate in the same way, and that offering these kinds of environments is crucial to the success and development of under-resourced students everywhere. This idea is supported by Ray Oldenburg's theory of third place, outlined in his book, The Great Good Place, where he states that environments such as cafes, bars, and beauty parlors are necessary for the well-being of adults, individually and society as a whole. These informal meeting places serve as the gathering grounds for social interaction, celebrating and sharing diversity, and ultimately democracy. So that's a little lofty, probably more lofty than we would get, but I thought I'd go there. By maintaining these spaces in which students can count on receiving things not available to them at home or school, such as surroundings that inspire play and creativity, individualized attention from caring adults, and access to books and computers, we are able to simultaneously open them up to more enriching and innovative programming, while also providing access to resources not readily available in traditional environments. So currently there are eight 826 centers. Our original chapter started in San Francisco. It's known as the Pirate Supply Store. In New York, you just saw the Superhero Supply Store. In Los Angeles, we're here in two neighborhoods in Echo Park and Mar Vista. We are known as the Time Travel Mart. Wherever you are, we're already then. In Seattle, it's Space Travel, the Space Travel Store. Chicago is called the Boring Store, which is actually a spy store, but you're not supposed to know. In Ann Arbor and Detroit, we have a robot supply and repair shop. And Boston is the Greater Bigfoot Research Institute. And our most recent chapter, which was in D.C. and opened about 2 or 3 years ago, is the Museum of Unnatural History. All of our chapters are operated in areas with high concentrations of under-resourced public schools and low-income families, areas on the brink of gentrification, where 826 chapters have become integral and vital parts of the community. Last year, we worked with about 29,000 students. And the national office that I run works to provide strategic leadership, administration, and other resources to support the entire network. The national office also works to scale the model. So we're looking at replicating to other cities that are interested, and we work with organizations that are already there to replicate the model. And currently we've got 15 organizations in a few different cities across the country that want to bring 826 centers to their cities, and that's Minneapolis is in the pipeline, Philadelphia, New Orleans, Oakland, California. Project-based learning is the core of our programs. So this focus helps students improve their writing, explore their creativity, and feel a sense of pride and accomplishment by producing tangible results. Our work could also not be accomplished without the help of thousands of volunteers. Those are artists, writers, filmmakers, bankers, lawyers, retired teachers, and grad students, all of whom work with our students on various projects in our programs. We train our volunteers to support the students, not to answer the questions, but to get the students to find their own answers in their own way. This collaboration between students and caring adults from the community runs through all of our programs and is a central part of the 826 magic. So I want to go into several programs. We have about 4 or 5 core programs that we work on. The first one is, we call them field trips, where we bring a class to us, and storytelling and bookmaking is at the center of it. And students come in, a class of maybe 20 or 30 students come in, and they work with volunteers to create a book. So it's about a 2-hour window. the students are creating a story, they work with the volunteers, and then they go off and write their own ending. And all of this is done under the watchful eye of a grumpy editor who usually is screaming at them, "You can't write stories, kids can't write stories." And so the kids all get excited, like, "Of course we can." And then they create stories in 2 hours. And then we print them out, bind them, and send them home with the kids. So every student gets an actual published book at the end with their author photo on it. And the stories are different. We try to get them to, well, we do, to create stories that have no basis in anything they know. So no SpongeBob SquarePants or whatever kids are watching now. It's really they create stories about friendships between frogs and pickles, unicorns with horns that make rainbows, and piranhas longing for dentures. So our after-school tutoring, which is how we actually get a lot of the students in the door, is a way for our volunteers to work with students on homework help. So they work on any homework the students need. And our tutors run the gamut. So I've tutored, and I, on occasion or all the time, seem to get students who want math help, and I'm the worst math person ever. So I'm like, what are you doing? But we are there to answer the questions and help them out. Our in-schools program, so we realized at a certain point that we were only hitting a small number of students. So our space, that space that you're seeing here, this is actually H6 Valencia, really only fits about 30 students. And our students now, what we started out as was a drop-in tutoring program, but those students kept coming back again and again. So now we have students that have been coming to us for 3 or 4 years at a time. But that space between the students and the tutors only seats about 40 or 50 people. So we realized we had a lot of volunteers as well that really wanted to do a lot more work. So what we started to do was we were approached by teachers that wanted help with their writing assignments. It could be a book report, an oral history project, or college entrance essays. By bringing in volunteers, we help to lower the student-to-teacher ratio and provide one-on-one support to the students. We also do work in several schools and libraries where we've created writers' rooms, which is sort of bringing in a piece of 826 into the space. It's decorated like an 826, and the volunteers man it all day, and the students can go in and get any writing or tutoring help they need. Our Young Authors Book Project is probably one of our signature programs where we began to work with teachers to do stronger and more substantive writing programs using the student's own voice. So the Young Authors Book Project is one where we collaborate with a class, and we actually bring in we're lucky enough to have a lot of famous authors who work with us. So we'll get a guest author to come in, and they'll write the foreword for the book and work with the class over the semester or the year to help them edit it. So we've worked with Isabel Allende, Steve Carroll, Coletta Cini, Robin Williams, and Michael Chabon, and a number of others. But the volunteers, while they're working on this, will help the students as they write and edit the pieces. And the book prompts are far-ranging, from the role of food in students' families to writing about what they wish teachers knew about school. So the book projects allow students to collaborate, make creative decisions, take ownership of their work over a long period of time, and see their work published in a professionally designed and beautifully bound book that's sold in our stores, online, and in bookstores nationwide. The books, in fact, and all of our student publications are sources of pride for our students. We published everything that the students write. So they become published authors, and many of them are published authors, and I'm 45, and I've never become a published author. And I have an MFA, and they're published authors. So that's what I tell them all the time. And they can show these books off to schools, friends. We make sure that they list them on their college transcripts, on their resumes, letting people know that they're published authors. In addition to the 826 sponsored books in our in-school program, we also assist teachers in producing student publications, school newspapers, school magazines, anything that's another key creative outlet. We also have done music programs, poetry, plays, films, you name it, we do it. Anything creative that the students can write, we do it. But we believe these programs are essential for our students who are in under-resourced schools. Last year, we published 955 student publications and worked with more than 440 schools. We also provide writing curriculum in the form of our Don't Forget to Write books that are workshop writing prompts, and the soon-to-be published STEM and creative writing workbooks. And this was an interdisciplinary effort we got underway with Time Warner Cable. To get students excited about STEM. So we were approached. I was at a meeting with the powers that be at Time Warner Cable, and had made a very bold assumption about the fact that our students don't like science because it's boring, and the way it's taught in schools is boring. And I almost got beaten up by all the scientists in the room. But head of corporate social responsibility at Time Warner Cable, I was like, I'm interested. Your model seems to work. How can we combine the two? So we created a set. We had already had several science workshops that we were doing that were writing, but didn't really have any science in them. They were just sort of science prompts. So we worked with them and with also the UCSF to create hands-on science projects. And then the students would do creative writing around those. So I actually bought, if anyone wants to see them, 2 of our chapbooks from the creative writing the summer, what we did last summer. And one is called Rewriting the Zombie Apocalypse. And the other was I Also Love to Bake, which is a collection of superhero stories when we did the science of superheroes. Writing and creativity is universal. And I found this out firsthand over the past week when I went to a meeting of international nonprofit organizations, all inspired by the 826 model in Dublin. This group is actually the group that sponsored the meeting is from Dublin. It's called Fighting Words. And they are in Dublin. They work with about 10,000 students a year. But they just opened a new center in Belfast with the goal of getting the students from both sides, Catholic and Protestant, together to do writing assignments. Other groups from that meeting were literally from all across Europe: Milan, Barcelona, Stockholm, Copenhagen, Vienna, Amsterdam, Paris, and we had someone from Latin America. We had someone from Buenos Aires. There are also 826 inspired organizations in Sydney and Melbourne, so we actually have organizations running on 4 different continents. But they're all brought together by understanding of the power of creative writing and a belief that the 826 model is the way to help under-resourced and immigrant students tell their stories, gain strength through telling those stories, and feel more connected to their communities. Each group talked about the need for creativity and teaching creative writing to students because their school systems didn't offer it, and that was probably the most amazing thing, was that this problem is a global problem of school systems not teaching arts education to students. When I was asked recently about the vision for 826 National, I was joking. I said, world domination. And then I sat in the room full of all these people, and I was like, oh, that actually might happen. Wow, scary. For all of us, we're all excited to collaborate together and build ways for our students to work together and learn from each other's stories. We're hoping to do a lot of collaborative projects with our students from around the world. All these groups understand it's not just the writing, but it's also the space. And they're all creating spaces that look just like this 826. One of the things I think that we are finding is that this is actually what we're doing with writing is also having an economic workforce implication. And I was actually speaking to here in the Mojave Desert, there's a group that's creating a suborbital rocket. And I went and talked to their scientists. And one of the scientists, and I was like so excited, I'm talking to an actual rocket scientist. She said, we need people that can write and communicate well. In my business, a misplaced comma can kill. And I thought, that's it. If I can't repeat that every time, but she's right. Providing students with arts education through forms such as creative writing can help make a more civil society, but help prepare students for the global economy. So the recent Wallace Foundation report entitled Something to Say, Successful Principles for After-School Arts Programs from Urban Youth and Other Experts, points to 10 principles for successful arts education programs that will attract students ages 10 to 13. And the report pointed to 826. We were one of the organizations that they highlighted. And they said several principles that we have: having instructors, volunteers that are professional practicing artists, having arts programs that take place in dedicated, inspiring, and welcoming spaces that affirm the value of art and artists, and finally, that there are positive relationships with adult mentors and peers that foster a sense of belonging and acceptance. And I think between us and the international people, they see the power of the collaborative work that we're doing with the communities and the people in the communities. It's what really makes 826 such a global phenomenon. The need to express ourselves and to have our voices heard is universal, and that is even more true with children that have long lived under the tyranny of children should be seen and not heard. I believe that this is part of why the 826 model is so successful and being replicated. But much of that is because writing and the need to teach children to write is part of our DNA. And sadly, teaching creative writing is lacking in school systems all over the world where children need it most. 826 is working to make a difference in the lives of low-income and under-resourced youth by providing students with opportunities to write, create worlds, and foster relationships with caring adults. These are vital to a young person's future success and the success of the state of the planet. Thank you very much.